You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start with a really stupid idea that the NBA is considering when it resumes play. This is from Ramona Shelburne and Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. There is a playoffs plus idea that includes 20 to 24 teams, with the NBA including more teams from the Western Conference than the Eastern Conference, for teams like the Pelicans, Trailblazers, Spurs, and Kings to vie for the postseason. This could not be any stupider. For starters, how exactly is that going to work for the purposes of the bracket that the NBA uses for the playoffs? What, are you going to give the top team in the West the bye? The Lakers are getting a bye? And then the winner of that play-in tournament becomes the 8th seed? Everyone, moves up one or something? Like the team in second in the West would face the winner of this play-in tournament? The 3 seed would face the 8 seed, Grizzlies? Well, wait a second. Why did the Lakers get a bye and not the Bucks? The Bucks have a better record than the Lakers. Why do the Bucks have to play the Magic when the Lakers are getting the bye? It doesn't work. You can't favor one conference over the other. You know, this is something that I had said before. There was no NBA team on the playoff bubble. Again, before the season went on pause, did you think that the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, the Kings, or the Spurs had a chance of making it past the Grizzlies? Because I'll tell you, I didn't. I mean, the Spurs would have to leapfrog 4 teams in 19 games. That's really tough to do. They were not on the playoff bubble. They were out of it. The Kings, Pelicans, and Trailblazers would all have to leapfrog 3 teams. The 2 other teams that I just mentioned, and the Grizzlies. And they'd have less than 20 games to do it. Not gonna happen. None of those teams were that good. Were the Pelicans playing better with Zion? Yeah. But you know what? They still lost too much ground without him. They were not a playoff threat. But let's move past that for a second. Let's say you want to include those bottom 4 teams in some kind of a play-in tournament. Okay, fine. The NHL is doing something similar. But then you have to include everyone from the East also. It doesn't work. You can't do it for one conference and not the other. It doesn't work like that. You're either going to do 24 teams or 16 teams. And a 24-team playoff would be ridiculous. you'd have the Wizards, Hornets, Bulls, and Knicks making the playoffs. None of those teams were good enough to be in the playoffs. None! I mean, no one hates the Knicks more than me, but I'll tell you, if the NBA really wants to include the Western Conference teams that were on the outskirts of the bubble, I can't even say they were on the bubble, the outskirts of the bubble, then the Knicks have to be included. You can even talk me into including the Pistons. They were only a game behind the Knicks. The Suns were only 2 games behind the Spurs. Let's include them. Hell, let's include the Golden State Warriors. With everyone coming back, they're title threats again. It doesn't work for the NBA. There was no playoff bubble. We knew the 16 teams that were going to be in the playoffs. Did we know exact seeding? No, we didn't. For instance, the Thunder and Rockets are tied for the 5th seed. And so are the Pacers and Sixers in the East. That could have gone either way. The Nets and the Magic were in a dogfight for the 7th seed. The Nets were a half game up at the time of the pause. We didn't know exact seeding, but we knew the 16 teams. The fans of those teams knew that they were going to have to buy playoff tickets. You're telling me that Kings fans knew they had to buy playoff tickets? Or Spurs fans, or Trailblazers fans, or Pelicans fans? That's ridiculous. There was no playoff bubble in the NBA. See, the thing is, the NBA and NHL have kind of been joined at the hip in all this. The NHL paused its season right after the NBA did. So if the NHL has a 2014 playoff, then the NBA wants an expanded playoffs. The only problem is there was a legitimate race for those final playoff spots. The Islanders were 1 point behind the Blue Jackets. The Rangers were 2 points behind them. The Panthers were 3 points behind them. In fact, the Blue Jackets were tied with the Hurricanes for the wild card spot. Over in the West, that final wild card spot was tied with the Predators and Canucks. The Predators were in, they had the tiebreaker. But the Wild were 1 point behind them. The Coyotes were 4 points behind them. Quite frankly, I don't even like that the Blackhawks are in the expanded playoffs. They were 6 points behind everyone, and they had to leapfrog 4 teams. It wasn't going to work. The Blackhawks were not going to be in the playoffs. But I understand that they needed to be included because there was so much parity in the NHL. The NBA, there was no parity. We knew the teams. And this idea that you're going to favor one conference over the other, no. If 9 through 12 from the West are going to be in some kind of a tournament, then 9 through 12 have to be in a tournament. Congratulations, Knicks. You'll be playing meaningful basketball. See, here's the funny thing about this. If you're including the Knicks in the playoffs, and I'm not picking on the Knicks here. Believe me, you'll know when I'm picking on the Knicks, but I'm really not here. The Knicks were only 1 game up on the Pistons. They were 1.5 games up on the Hawks and Cavaliers. The difference between the 8th seed in the West Memphis Grizzlies and the 9 seed Portland Trailblazers, they had the tiebreaker, was 3.5 games. The worst team in the Eastern Conference was closer to this bottom rung of the playoff tournament than the reason that you won a playoff tournament in the first place. It doesn't work. It makes no sense. The Memphis Grizzlies were 1 game under 500 at the time of the pause. Not a great team by any stretch, but 1 game under 500. The Trailblazers, Pelicans, and Kings were all 8 games under. The Spurs were 9 games under 500. You're rewarding those teams. The Magic were 5 games under 500. The Wizards were 16 games under 500. There was no playoff bubble. None. And again, you have to keep it equal. You can't put the Western Conference teams in that were on the periphery of possibly being considered for the playoff bubble, but not the Eastern Conference teams. It makes no sense. Wizards fans would cry foul, and they'd have a case for it. Same thing with Hornets fans, Bulls fans, and Knicks fans. Just end the regular season right here. Commissioner Silver, I'm talking to you. Go straight into the playoffs, have a training camp, get everyone back into game shape, and then have a shortened playoffs to determine a champion. Moving on now to the MLBPA's counter-proposal to Major League Baseball. And their counter-proposal is very, very fair. The main crux of it is that they want more than 100 games and a guarantee of full prorated salaries for the 2020 season. If you'll recall from yesterday's show, the MLB owners proposed an 82-game regular season and a sliding scale for players to take pay cuts. Now, one thing that I did not realize, and this is on me, I apologize for this. I didn't realize that the sliding scale pay cut was in addition to a prorated salary. I thought the pay cut they were talking about was just based on the fact that there were going to be less games. I thought they were tearing up the agreement that they had reached in late March for having prorated salaries. But no, the MLB owners wanted to keep the prorated salaries in place and then cut the prorated salary. I did not realize that. I take full responsibility for that. I should have. I apologize. This is a very complicated situation. There are a bunch of moving parts. It's really hard to keep up to date with everything, especially when you're not in the negotiating room. But there's no excuse for giving wrong information. I deeply, deeply apologize. Quite honestly, based on this new information that I'm getting, it may not be new to you, but it is to me, I'm doing a 180 here. I'm probably going to side more with the players here. The MLB owners agreed in late March 27th to be specific, and shout out to Jeff Passan of ESPN, by the way. He's done a great job explaining all this, making it really simple to understand. He's actually how I understood what Major League Baseball proposed. So, shout out to him. He's a really, really smart guy. But on March 27th, the MLB and the Players Association entered into an agreement where the players would receive their prorated salary if games were played. Now, the MLB has countered that by saying that language in the agreement calls for a good faith negotiation in the event that games are played in empty stadiums. There's just one problem with that, in my opinion. By late March, we knew that if sports was going to return this year, it would probably be in front of empty arenas before we got fans back into the stands. This wasn't news that we'd have to play games in front of empty arenas. Now, maybe by the fall we can get fans back in the stands, but by June or July, no fans. That was pretty well established. So I don't buy what the league is selling here. I'm really fully on board with the players here. A complete 180 from yesterday. I know, I get it. You can call me a hypocrite all you want. Again, I've received new information. I think it's important to change your mind if new information becomes available to you. Don't be locked into one position. Pride comes before the fall. This is the example that Passan has used, and it's a perfect example. If Mike Trout's salary is just prorated, he'd receive over $19 million this year. It's a lot of money, but he signed a contract before all this started. He's due money. He's due a lot of money. If there's a sliding scale pay cut system along with prorated salaries, Mike Trout is getting less than $6 million. That's an over $13 million pay cut. That's ridiculous. And it's kind of funny. It's usually the players that are against longer seasons. It's the owners here. They think a second wave could come and wipe out the playoffs. So they want to end the season as quickly as possible, but still have some legitimacy. Look, we can't worry about a potential second wave. It's either going to happen or it's not. Do there need to be contingency plans in place? If there is, yeah, but you can't say we don't want this because there's a possibility of a second wave. That's not a guarantee. More to the point, every other league has to deal with that too. The NHL is coming back. They'd have to deal with a potential second wave. Same thing with the NBA. The NFL would be screwed. Baseball is no different here. I'm fully on board with the players' proposal here. I stand by what I said yesterday, that the owners are losing money. I mean, that's just fact. And they can't afford to pay everyone their full salaries. That's just fact. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are furloughing people or cutting salaries, releasing people outright. I think it's fair to say that the owners didn't want to do that. But they had to because they have to balance their checkbook. Major League Baseball owners employ a lot of people. More people than you realize. You've got all the major leaguers, plus the front office people, and the training staff, and the marketing, and the sales, and all that good stuff. And then you have the exact same thing for the minor leagues. That's why Manfred wants to contract the minor leagues. They are losing money here, and kudos to the Players Association for not pushing for their full salaries here. I know it's what they want, they're not going to get it, good for them for compromising. The league isn't. One thing that would be interesting is if the league says no prorated salaries, but just the sliding scale. That seems like a fair compromise. I don't know how the union would respond to it. See, here's the thing. We're really close to Armageddon here. If we don't get a resolution quickly, there will be no baseball this year. And that is a death blow to the league. It cannot come back from that. The way it came back from 94 was they turned a blind eye to the players using steroids. They may have to do something similar, but the novelty is gone from that. The novelty is gone from the home run. You've already juiced the balls. Fans are saying to you, they don't want more home runs. It's gotten ridiculous. There's nothing that the MLB can do to lure fans back if this season is canceled. They are screwed. It's amazing. I said that I didn't want baseball if we were going to make a mockery of the game, and I stand by that. But if we don't get baseball because these two sides can't come together, shame on both of them. Again, I'm doing a full 180. I think the players are in the right here. They should get their prorated salaries. If you want to just do a sliding scale, I'm okay with that. I don't know how the Players Association would feel, but I think that's fair. Tear up prorated salaries in that case. I understand that the owners are losing money, and it's going to be tough to pay prorated salaries. Just like it would be tough to pay players just a sliding scale salary. But maybe the players would be open to some kind of a deferred compensation agreement. I'm sure there's at least one bank that would be willing to loan you a massive amount of money, or multiple banks for multiple massive amounts of money. These two sides need to come together quickly, or else no baseball. What the owners need to understand is, without the players, they're screwed. The players can at least go international and still ply their trade. I understand that's what they don't want to do. They won't make as much money. I get that. But there's still a way for them to make money. If every Major League Baseball player decided to stop playing for Major League Baseball, the owners are screwed. The players aren't. The owners are at the mercy of the players here. It's just that simple. I'm full team players here. I know, complete 180 from yesterday. I really, really feel bad about that. Moving on now to an article from Neil Best of Newsday. This isn't a huge deal, but it kind of ticked me off when I saw it. It basically says that since the Islanders have Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz, the Islanders are better suited for this than any other team in the NHL. The simple fact is that's not true. Look, I don't like Lamoriello anyway, but I like Barry Trotz. Neither one of them have ever been in a situation like this. You want to tell me they've been in the league for a long time? That's fine. I get that. But neither one of them were alive in 1918. Sure, we all remember the canceled season, but that's completely different from this. The players were at least staying in game shape. They were honing their craft. I remember going to Bridgeport Sound Tigers games during the '04 lockout and seeing NHL players in a dinky little arena just off the Long Island Sound. And a bunch of players went to Europe. They can't do that now. Everyone's in the same boat here. Everyone's starting at zero. There were a bunch of Islander fans that were happy that their team was slated to face the Panthers. And yeah, I'm with you. The Islanders are a better team than the Panthers. No question. But we're all at zero now. Everyone. The Islanders, the Rangers, the Bruins, the Blues, any team you want. They're all starting at zero here. Seeding really means nothing. This isn't like you were a great team in the regular season and then you carry that momentum into the playoffs. There is no momentum anymore. If the top players on the Bruins, guys like Pasternak and Marchand and Rask, weren't staying in game shape, they're screwed. There's no risk of that if you're playing a full season. And you can't tell me that you know for a fact that every Islander has stayed in game shape. I'm sure most have. Lamoriello said that every Islander is going to be healthy. So the Islanders are going to have a full roster for the Panther series. Great. Fantastic. They missed Adam Pelech desperately. But the simple fact is, we don't know how Pelech is going to do. We don't know how Barzal is going to do. How Lee is going to do. How anyone is going to do. You can't say the Islanders are better prepared for this because they have experienced leadership. For starters, Lamoriello has been a failure here. His big trade deadline acquisition, J.G. Pageau, which I was all in favor of, the Islanders went over with him in the lineup. They were playing like garbage leading into the pause. The team that benefited the most from the pause was the New York Islanders. Because they were anemic, they were lifeless. It was getting to the point where I didn't even want to turn on the games. Had tickets to some of them. It's like, oh, I'm sick. Can't go. School assignment. It was a joke. So the Islanders benefited in that respect, but it has nothing to do with Lamoriello and Trotz. Maybe they have a better conditioning schedule? I have no idea. That's a ridiculous notion. Bill Belichick isn't prepared for this. Greg Popovich isn't prepared for this. Dusty Baker, who's been around baseball more than anyone, he's not prepared for this. It's ridiculous to say that the Islanders are better prepared for this than any other team. No, that's just not true. It's going to even be tough to do playoff predictions. Look, I'm going to do them because they're fun to do, but I'll tell you, my degree of confidence will be very low. And this is embarrassing to admit, but I posted my first round playoff picks on Twitter last year at RealJacobValk. I went 0 for 8. I even picked the Penguins over the Islanders. I had Penguins in 6, I think. Killed me to say it, but I was trying to be unbiased. No one was happier than me when the Islanders won. Ran around my house screaming. Was out of breath. It was great. The final story that I want to talk about is really minor, but I still want to talk about it. I did 1 basketball, 1 baseball, 1 hockey, so I'll do a football. I like the symmetry there. The Saints signed James Hurst to a 1-year deal. Good move for them. Hurst was a solid swing tackle last year for the Ravens. And the year before, he was okay. He's always been average. He's never been great. That's really all you can ask for from a swing offensive tackle. Hurst is going to miss the first 4 games of the season because he was hit with a PED suspension. But the Saints have the offensive line necessary to withstand that. They brought back Andrus Peat on a big deal. Too much of an overpay. Not a big Pete fan, but he's still there. Eric McCoy is getting better. Ryan Ramczyk is still a beast. Cesar Ruiz was their first-round pick. The Saints will be fine. They won't miss Hurst for the first 4 games. Good move by the Saints in bringing in an experienced swing offensive tackle. Tomorrow, maybe the trifecta, maybe some more sports news. I don't know what the future holds. What I do know is that until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that I used to be the toast of Toronto. Now, I'm the jelly.